Alright, today I got kind of a cool story here. Hit the Goodwill bins today, not expecting anything, but I took some vinyl records, coffee table that was just in the way, and a few other things, a couple boxes of things off to the Goodwill bin store to donate, and there was a whole bin full of 45s. There had to have been at least 100 of them in there. Usually Dean Martin and numerous, people in there, but there was some really interesting early 50s type stuff in there, mid to early 50s kind of stuff, which I don't know a whole lot about. I probably left a lot of really good ones there. There's the platters, smoke kits in your eyes type stuff there. A lot of things that may or may not have been American Graffiti type stuff there, but really cool. And I said maybe karma is being nice to me because I donated some stuff, which I donated my favorite coffee table in the whole world. It really was, I really liked that coffee table. Solid as a rock. You could dance on it if you wanted to. And then I donated some interesting tchotchkes, and I said, I've been kind of treating Goodwill kind of bad. I might as well, give them a few little bits of interesting stuff. A Bob Ross poster I donated and all that good stuff. So there was that, and all these records were there just sitting with my name on it. Now, I should have bought 3 times as much as I did, because they're only $1.29 a piece, and everybody's like $1.29 and they spit out their water. And not because a good spit out their water, but a bad spit out their water. That much? Oh my gosh. And again, a lot of these things are only $5 or less on the internet plus shipping, so many things, but I just don't feel like looking up every single one of these 100 records there. There were some in the little books there, and they just like, really interesting stuff. And if my friend was there, he would know every single one of these and if they were worth picking up. Labels I hadn't seen before. So I'll show you those in a second here, but I got an interesting story involving Morrissey, kind of. It's not really an interesting story. This is the release I found at the local thrift store for a quarter this last year. Maybe it was even last year, but it was 25 cents and that was in there. And it's worth more than the LP. This is probably like a $5 to $10 item. You can call me out on that, but there were some that sold for $6 or $7 in the UK, and now they're like $30 or $40 because everybody's jumped on that train. The young kids have found out all the cool stuff, and they just pay anything to get it. Because I remember having 2 younger people, in that 20 plus age bracket, maybe not quite 30, and they were geeking over some record that I valued at only like $3. I couldn't sell it, and they wanted to, oh my gosh, I'll pay you $10 for that, but nobody had the money for it because they do everything on their phones. Never have any money for that. So I don't remember what happened, but I eventually either kept it or I don't know what I did with it. It was a Sade record, and they were just really, can't believe you found that at the bins. That was insane. How'd you do that? Well, that was just sitting there because the old timers didn't want that because it's not kind of music, and also the record cover was a little jacked up, but it didn't have the songs I wanted, so it's not really anything. But nobody, everybody's fighting over it, and then I decided to buy it just to make everybody happy, or me happy, because I didn't know what all the fuss was. And, again, it was only worth like $3 in that condition, if that. So I'll show you what I got here, but the Morrissey story here was what happened was that I went to Discogs looking for something. I found something, and I said $4 plus $6 shipping. No, it's not a scam. It's just because the condition isn't great. And it's like one of these 12-inch type of things from the 80s or whatever, and it was a radio station promotional stamp, but the radio station had loved the cover more than they loved the inside of the record. So the record was a good condition, so I said, let's just go buy it, but the seller wouldn't let me buy it because it's one of those sellers that has a minimum. And so I found all of these different people on Reddit, Discogs, Reddits, or whatever, all the things, and they're complaining about this stuff or the thing, and a lot of them are hidden because people have gone to try to buy something, and they said, hey, it's not fair. We're not part of the $50 per LP crowd, and nor should we be. And they said, this is ridiculous. We saw something for a fair price. We wanted it. We didn't see anything else we wanted from your store, and that's all we wanted. And I don't, if you're really worried about it, make it up in the shipping. Just tell me $10 for shipping, and I can choose not to buy it. But don't offer it for like $4 plus $6 shipping, and then hit me with oh, by the way, we need more. You need to buy more records. But it tells me that, but it doesn't tell me how far I need to go. So, and people said that they spent, you can go to spend all afternoon on Discogs and yet buy nothing. That's what's so frustrating about all these websites. So that was really frustrating, but in the meantime, I was going to make a video about that. Didn't make the video. And then the other suggestion is like, well, just get over it, people. Just contact the seller, figure out how much he wants, and if you don't like his terms, then buy from somebody else. That's what they said. So I messaged the seller late last night. It's already 6:30 right now. Yeah, it is after 6:30, and I've heard nothing from the seller. I know, give him a day or two, but still, all this time is being wasted, and people said, well, we don't care. We're not worried about it. But all this time, and this has happened before, waiting for the seller to dither around what to do, and for me to figure out if it was okay to buy it, or he might say, which one did you want? I'll just let you buy this one. And then there could be numerous people wanting this silly Morrissey thing for $10 and buying more stuff from this guy's store, and then I could be totally out of a record for $10 when it's normally $25 to $40. So that's just, but because, the condition ones are a little bit, I don't know, just ridiculous. So I'll show you what I found at the bins, and I was just shocked. But again, the shocking thing is these prices are not going to be what you think they are. So I didn't find this, and I might have this. I'll have to go through my Beatles records and see. They're not in organization, so what I need to do is go through my records and get them all in alphabetical order, my 45s or whatever they want to call them. The Beatles, Baby or Rich Man, All You Need Is Love, and 90% of the copies on eBay have no covers, none. The cover is super hard to find. The ones I've been seeing had rips and stains on it. And the people that had there was one person that wanted $6 that supposedly had the cover, but that's what it showed in the listing, the cover. Then there was other people that wanted 15-ish with ripped and damaged covers. The only damage to this one here is somebody wrote J right there, 10, and there's got some ring wear on it from the thing there. But this side displays just fine. So I said, you know what, that's only cost me barely 5 cents. I'm going to grab that. Why that was in the bins? It was in the leftovers, mind you. Then I started digging through the 45s, and then people saw me doing that, and it's like, oh man, are you finding gold? So everybody started digging, and I was like, well shoot, dang it. So I didn't make some wise choices, and I left a lot of stuff behind, like Creedence Clearwater and all that good stuff here. And the ones that didn't have sleeves, I threw sleeves on it. So I threw this Columbia, is that the 3i? I don't know. I threw that on, but anyway, Light My Fire by the Doors, Electra, so a different thing there, and then this one is the Crystal Ship there, so it looks like it's in good shape. But it will be all revealed when I play that. I could have got a lot of 45 adapters. There were tons of them, but I forgot. I didn't think to grab any. I thought I had them in my cart, but I guess I just left them. It's unfortunate. I do have some, but I do have the center adapter somewhere, so I always lose it. And then, so there's that one there. That was one of the earlier ones I found, and people were trying to get that away from me. But they had gotten to the store before I did. They didn't look at the records. It's so ridiculous when people say, can I have it, can I have it, can I have it? And I said, no, you cannot have it. It's like, but I need that to sell in my store. And I said, I need that for my own personal enjoyment. I don't care. So essentially the Goodwill bins, if you didn't know, it's sellers versus people using it for their own personal enjoyment. And that's what it is. And the sellers get very irritated when you find something really awesome that you're not going to make any money on. It's a waste to them. So I got this Imperial record here, which is not valuable at all, but it's a Fats Domino one, so I'll have to double check. Some of these might be upgrades. I'm in the mood for love, Fats Domino, and this one says I'm walking. So I forget who originally did that one. I'm not sure it was Fats, but again, so there's that one there. And then I threw it in this Beatles on Apple sleeve here, so I thought that was cool. So again, there was a lot of empty sleeves there, and not the records that go with them, so very strange because again, I got to the records last, and somebody had piled up a whole bunch of empty sleeves. I guess they were hoping to find them, and they threw them back when they didn't. And I didn't get to all the records. And then I was trying to stack them up nicely in a part of the store for somebody else, and then somebody was like throwing them this way, and this way, frisbeeing them this way, and I was like, what a gross place to do shopping. Then this psychedelic RCA sleeve, it's got a Savoy, Piddly Patter, it's like Happy Brown. I'll just call him Happy Brown because that's not what it is. I don't want to get in trouble there, but that's his name. It's not Happy, but it's pretty darn close to that. Maybe it is Happy. No, it looks like an N there. But anyway, there will become a day. So I'll figure out what that's on. It's supposedly some R&B, but again, R&B does not mean it's super valuable. But here's something I've never seen before, an R&B right there. R&B, and this is "I Want to Be With You" by Earl Curry. That's what it says, by Earl Curry and the Blenders. So we'll figure out what that is. It says it's on K&S Music, and then I threw this in a reprise sleeve. And The Late Rising Moon by Earl Curry and the Benders. So we'll figure that one out. And again, some of them that didn't have sleeves were in pretty okay condition. To double check and make sure that that's just a fingerprint there. I always look for cracks and stuff like that, because nothing wants to spend $1.29 on a record that's busted. And then we got the Beatles on Apple, Hey Jude, and Revolution. And I'm pretty sure I have that, but did I have the Beatles on Apple sleeves? That's very, very cool there. So that's cool. Again, Beatles, regardless of what they're selling on Discogs, again, this one here, without the cover, does not sell for very much, or does not, go for very much. But, $15 is about what it maxes out for that cover there. I know a guy that kind of looks like that, pretty funny. But yeah. Those are all the Sgt. Pepper uniforms, it looks like. And I'm not sure if that was on Sgt. Oh, well, anyway. This is one of my favorite songs, by the way, by the Beatles, so that's cool. And then this is, I think, the first one I saw, and I was like, what the heck? I mean, I was like, what the heck? I'm taking that. Elvis Presley, Love Me Tender, from the 20th century, oh my gosh, the 20th century Fox Cinema, scene production, CinemaScope production, Love Me Tender. Very cool is that one there. I've never seen this green sleeve here. I got green sleeves. There was a ton of RCA red discs, and there was some blue discs, or aqua colored discs, and oh man, it was just amazing, the RCA selection there. So there it is right there. Probably not a super original one there, but I am so happy to have that one. Again, they were $1.29 each. I think those are all of those, and then we just go through a few sleeves here and we will be done. Again, Discogs is Disappointment Scogs right now, and RSD is Disappointment, Record Store Disappointment Day. There's a Buddha record sleeve. Again, these are not particularly mint, but when you want to sell something or have something, you would like to have them in some sort of era-specific sleeve. There's a Roulette one, and there's an Atlantic Atco Cotillion Group, and we have another one of these. So it was a very amazing, awesome day. Not much was spent. I think I spent a whopping $8.50 for all of this stuff here. And I also got a patch, and I got this cool 50s era Hopalong Cassidy gun holster there. It says Cassidy right there. It's kind of coming apart a little bit right here, but very happy to have found this. Very unusual. There's like a rivet staple that's missing there. But very, very happy. I'll make some sort of display thing with that or something. I have some Hopalong Cassidy trading cards there. Maybe I'll throw a piece of cardboard between the cards and this here and throw it in the binder. And I just think that's an old vintage 50s era piece of leather. People were, they're so fast and quick, they don't see everything, they miss everything, and everybody missed all the crazy amounts of 45s because it's like, well, LP, that's $1.29, 45, $1.29, why should I buy the 45? We'll just go to eBay and I'll just show you very quickly here. There's 193 results for Baby You're a Rich Man. And I wanted to show you $3.95 without the cover, $5.90, $6, $7, $6 with a cover, but that's plus shipping. It looks like it's got the cover there. That's the cheapest one. Then we've got $6 with is that another one? Oh, is that the one I just saw? That's the one I just saw. It just scooted down on me. $9. People are asking, there's different versions of this one here. I don't know which one, but it shows that kind of like that Capital Swirl, that one in there. And then there's probably like an Apple one. There's a Parlophone edition, and then there's another Capital one in a very ancient RCA Victor sleeve, another Parlophone one. So really cool to have found that. Again, I could have spent $10 on this sort of thing here. This one here, I don't know what this is. It's a UK Spring handwritten label design. So that's kind of fun there. There's, again, but that's from the UK and 1498. You could just spend your life trying to collect every version of that particular, but again, $15 for that one there, and I just have the sleeve. Again, I've got to go through probably having 500, and I've been seeing a lot of this. The seller's away. The seller's away. This one's got tape residue all over this, you know, so that really doesn't add value to that. I bet you that I would be able to sell this very easily for $5. And then several people say, yeah, that's good, but it's all scratched or it's not mint. They would find every excuse for me to get my price down without actually saying that they want a cheaper price there. You know, if this is $14, $15 for this one with a damaged cover, but I've never seen the cover at a thrift store in my entire lifetime. What do record stores sell these things for? They might even be more than eBay. You know, it could be $20 in a record store because, you know, again, it just don't. But there's another one with a huge rip on the word Beatles there, big rip on it. And then here's another one, the new Odeon issue. So this is kind of neat. Baby You're a Rich Man in new Odeon reissue, and I think that's kind of a cool picture there. Again, $15.99, and then that's kind of neat. You know, is there a date on here? What does it say when this came out here? It doesn't say. It's a reissue. But again, it just does not say when this reissue came out. But again, I think that, you know, paying $15 for something Beatles related, I think is really a pretty fair price. Because even if you don't like the record, that would make an awesome display piece, and it's something authentic and, you know, original and just kind of neat there. The Beatles medallions. I seem to remember those things before. I think they were plastic. These ones are metal, but I remember some plastic Beatles medallions. Very cool there. This one's all in Deutsch, auf Deutsch, so very cool, very neat, very neat, very neat. Very cool. I'm glad I went into the store. I'm happy to get rid of that coffee table because it was taking up a lot of space. I just don't have any space for anything. I'm trying to figure out how to get this place cleaned up for the holidays, and it may not happen. It may not happen. I might just take one room and just dump everything in there. You know, adding shelves, putting this and this and this, and it's not getting me anywhere. You know, all of this is just fun, but it's a distraction away from what I should be really doing. Anyway, it was a great time. It was had by all. I probably should have gotten more stuff and bought, you know, I could have easily spent $40 in 45s. That was not my goal today. You know, I wasn't even really looking for records. I was like, oh boy, I'm in trouble. And I was in trouble, but I left things like Creedence Clearwater Revival. I left things like Donovan and stuff like that. But again, regardless of the good condition it was in, it was very, very common and it only sells for a couple bucks. But what was really awesome is I got to see stuff that I haven't seen for a very long time, and I was able to get away from the record store eBay market Discogs thing for a while. Hope you have a great thrifting trip and find some cool stuff, and thank you for watching.